Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, everyone's doing it. I'm gonna do it. It's always fun to do. Looking back on last year, I'm gonna go traditional Dan style presentation form. I haven't done one of these in a while, so it's nice to get back to it. With that, I'm gonna dive right into it. Outline. It might be a little bit lengthy. Probably shouldn't be too crazy, but we'll see where we end up. eBay gross sales number. First slide is going to be year over year changes on how my eBay, the blend between different categories, and I'll link some relevant videos either above or in the description below potentially. But yeah, this naturally is kind of reacting to my 2023 market predictions. So it's going to have some context that if you want to get all the context, you need to watch that video. You probably don't remember it if you watched it a year ago. You might be newer to the channel. Auditing my 2023 predictions, and then next year's predictions. I thought about doing it in one massive video. Probably would have ended up over an hour. I imagine both these will end up being half an hour. So next week, this week, it's recapping 2023, business perspective, and all that, and then all my predictions. And next week will be my 2024 predictions and business plan for 2024. So had to split it into two. I know some people wanted one way, some people wanted the other. Can't please everyone. Sorry. Business highlights, just general what changed in 2023, what worked, what's not going to work, and yeah, what changed against my will. And then at the end, anyone who sticks around till the very end, I know that you're more like following me, my journey, all that. I have a little bit of a personal goal that I'm going to be sharing in here that I need some help, I need some support, some accountability on. So I'm going to include that at the end. eBay sales, rocket emoji. You got to have the rocket emoji. Never have too many of those. So yeah, as you can see right here, pulled this just fresh out of eBay earlier today. Report for January 1st to December 31st, 2023, compared to the prior year. That's what all these green and red are. The increase or decrease over last year by category. But yeah, 1.35 million. By far my highest on eBay. My eBay, I'll link it above the 10 years of selling on eBay. I think my last year was maybe 700,000. I forget the exact number. A much larger portion of last year was done on Troll and Toad Evo. Very large amount was still done on Troll and Toad Evo this year. I think nearly $500,000 was done. Sadly, by the end of this month, end of January, Troll and Toad Evo is done. So I will talk about that more in the next slide. But that's just the ebb and flow of my business over these past few years. Some things come in, some things go out, and we adapt. The only constant is change, right? And you gotta go with the flow, and you gotta make adjustments as needed, relevant to the market changing, relevant to certain things opening, closing, whatever it may be. So biggest things over here, I wrote one of my bullet points was 1,000% increases. The two categories that saw a 1,000% or higher increase: CCG sealed boxes, not surprisingly, because I used to sell them all through Troll and Toad Evo. So that is one new thing for me that I'm dealing with. And I made a video, if I remember, I'll link it above, on how I'm selling mystery pack lots. It isn't my favorite thing, but very brief TLDW of that video. Some people don't know what they want. They just want random whatever. They're allergic to money. So I'm here to soothe that money allergy. I do also do cases of booster boxes. I do cases of all Scarlet Violet sets are available on my eBay as long as they're in stock right now. I have all Sword and Shield era sets listings made for them on eBay. Whether or not they're in stock, whether or not I have them listed at this time, that's a different story. Some of them will be, some of them won't be. But yeah, having to move boxes and packs and ETB cases and things of that nature, that's new for me. I did 118K last year. I would fully expect that number to go up fairly substantially from that because I was just getting started there. CCG individual cards, clearly my most massive, highest thing. That is, a lot of it's my cards. Probably, I don't even know what the split is. I haven't run my numbers yet for tax this year, but 1.15 million. I mean, that's more than double of all my sales of everything on eBay last year, or in that vicinity at least. So, really happy with that. Really exceeded expectations early on in the year. I think I set a goal. I don't know if I made this public on YouTube. Maybe I did in my 2023 video, or maybe one of them along the way. 750K to a million, kind of where I wanted to land. I did have that one. I mean, I just recently made that short. Top 5 sales of the year. $217,500 on the base first Charizard alone. The second highest sale I made was a $30,000 sale of a staff stamped, quarterfinalist stamped, semifinalist or quarterfinalist stamped Tropical Wind. So obviously, a large portion of that was consignments, not my own cards. I'm not making $1.3 million net. That is a gross number, and yeah, that's a fairly obvious thing, but just need to state the obvious sometimes. Toys and Hobbies CCG sealed packs. That one was surprising to me, because I do have the random pack lots. I don't know what I sold last year that would have got me to 100K in those. I actually, right as I say that, I was doing there was a stretch of about 6 months where I was buying light base first edition packs, grading them in PSA 9 and PSA 10 before PSA started grading packs significantly more difficultly. I made a lot of great quick flips at the $150 and $300 pack rating tier on light base first packs, and I probably at least sold 50 to 60K, several PSA 10, PSA 9 base first edition packs. So that would account for a large portion of it. I think I sold one this year, one PSA 9 graded base first edition pack. So that I didn't know what that was originally, but I think I talked myself through it. Bottom one, very, very small, but I expect that to grow too. I have not yet advertised it very in depth, but I do have some Pokemon consigners that do have sports cards. I accept sports cards. Anything that is allowable in the eBay vault, anything that is allowable through eBay authenticity guarantee, single graded cards, BGS, PSA, CGC, SGC, maybe a couple more, but those are the main ones. Single graded cards greater than 250, graded by one of those companies. I take it for consignment through the eBay vault if it's eBay vault eligible. So I have yet to advertise really in the sports sphere, but I've contemplated doing that if or when my vault submissions consignment service goes down at all. That's kind of like an ace in the hole. That's something I got in my back pocket that I can do at any given time, because I think the sports card area, the sports card sphere is a lot bigger. I know James, ZNG Emporium, he frequently talks about how much sports is done and how much like Probstein and DC do of sports versus Pokemon. So definitely a deep well there if I ever want to grab for it. But as of right now, it's pretty much Pokemon consigners with a couple random sports cards here and there. I put the question here. I love when people ask questions. Ask me anything. I'm never going to be offended by it. I might just not answer it. I like to see myself as very transparent. I answer almost everything. One thing I don't really answer, because the question is a lot more complex than I think people realize. Whether you're a cash-based business, whether or not you're an accrual-based business, there's a lot more strategy in manipulating what your net is by year. And that may sound bad. Like, people just have no understanding of taxes whatsoever, is what it comes down to. And not manipulating as in fraudulently manipulating it with like just intentional business spend, intentional purchases, timed certain parts in the year. And yeah, I mean, I do intend to make, as we get towards April 15th, as we get towards tax time, I intend on doing some more tax advice style videos. So I guess stay tuned for that in the future. The net is hard to get at. I mean, I will come up with what my net is for the IRS, what I have to do there. It's just not that relevant. It's not as relevant as a lot of people probably think it would be. Because it depends on so many things. There are many multi-million-dollar businesses in Pokemon that make $0 net every year because by design they are cash basis. They put it all back into inventory. They're plowing it into growing the business. Maybe they have a secondary income. Maybe they have whatever. Yeah. So net income is not super relevant. I will say though, looking at my 1.35, some amount of that I lost money on. I mean, there were certain cards that I bought a $70 raw celebration Charizard and it graded a 9, and then all said and done I lost like 10-20 bucks after fees and everything. So some cards my margin was negative 20%, some cards my margin was 1,000%, and some amount of that too is long-term capital gains. A large portion of the 1.35 million is consignments, which I make through the eBay vault, approximately 5%. I mean, I have some amount of fees, a little bit of fees and shipping and stuff to get the cards there, but selling fees are 0 right now, so it's pretty straightforward what I make on average on net on an eBay vault consignment sale. I charge 20% for the non-vault stuff. I'm not really doing any new non-vault stuff, but I do have a couple hundred non-vault cards from larger consigners. I make anywhere from 2% on those to maybe 7%, so those vary a decent bit. So it's all over the place. Some amount of my 1.35 million long-term capital gains being realized too. I mean, I've been in this since 2014, and there are still times where I unearth some random thing, light packs from a box that I cracked 6 years ago, random cards that I graded 6, 7 years ago and I lost, and just unearthing them now, or things that I didn't really ever lose, but I didn't really ever price to sell, and then I'm deciding to sell them these days. So all different kinds of things. That's actually another tax strategy. Collectibles, depending on your marginal tax bracket, depending on a lot of other things, sometimes it's more advantageous to take a long-term capital gains rate on your sales than treating them as like normal inventory. That's, yeah, story for another day. But yeah, so the answer on but what's the net though, I've actually had people ask me that. I don't really answer that question. I won't tell you what it comes out to when I file my taxes at the end of the year, because it's just not that useful. And again, this is 1.35 million in sales on eBay. There was 500K on Troll and Toad. There was some amount on ComC. There was some amount on DC Sports. More things I'll get into on the next slide. This is just one thing. There could be people who net $1 million on 1.35 million in sales. I promise you I did not net that much. And there could be people who break even, or like not even just tax-wise break even, but like actually only break even or lose money on 1.35 million in sales. So I'm somewhere in between there. Somewhere between 0 and $1 million. Somewhere. I promise you I'm somewhere in there. Last bullet point I put, I think, I forget what I had stated on my 10 years of selling on eBay, but there was a dip. I remember talking about the dip, and that was in 2018 to 2019 timeframe. It wasn't because of the market. It was because more of me. I had my first child. 2020, obviously the market did its things and the boom. And so my 2020, even though I had my second child, I think that number went up year over year from the prior year. But the fourth bullet point, I just wanted to touch on one thing. I got the fisherman thing there, the parable of the Mexican fisherman. I don't think I've ever made a video on that, but at some point, this number will be the highest I'll ever achieve. I don't think I'm there yet. And I just wanted to have a little discussion on the topic of when I think I'll peak. I am one who knows that the word enough exists, and there is some certain point where I will definitely take my foot off the gas even further. Like right now, night shift, this school year, anyone who follows me closely knows that I've talked about that. I'm doing that to an extent, but the consignment business, that one big sale, at some point, year over year, the numbers won't increase. And I wanted to have this in there because like next year, I might not sell 1.35 million on eBay again. I think I'll be able to beat it as long as the consignments do well. That's really a large portion of it. But I'm not going to stress whether or not I do. At some point, I know that number will reach the highest it's ever going to reach for me. I think I still have room to grow. I think the next 3 to 5 years, I could grow year over year for the most part. But we'll have to see where we go. If I had to, I'll give it more next week in next week's predictions video. But I think I'm going to grow next year. But we'll see. I'm not going to sweat it if not. Because there's ways for that number to shrink and still make a lot of money. There's ways for that number to shrink and still have more than enough. It doesn't always need to, number doesn't always need to go up, at least for me. And again, gross, net, blah, blah, blah. And thinking back, I'm going to make a video at some point on not looking back in like a negative way. In hindsight, this should have been my number in 2020. I should have clicked sell all. I should have auctioned everything in 2020 at that perfect month, October, November, whatever. In hindsight, I would have ended up selling some of the Japanese a little too low, some of the trophy cards a little too low. But if I could go back, if I had just sold my whole PWCC vault, sold my whole eBay, sold everything all, like in hindsight, it would have been better. But what my strategy was and the information I had at the time, I didn't know where the stuff was going to go. I knew a lot of stuff was going to go down. I didn't know what exactly. I had a pretty good idea. So I sold the worst stuff first, sold the better stuff slower. And that's what I've always had for a strategy. You can't like look back and sweat too much. Oh, it could have been better. It could have done this different. Could have done that different. Very happy to be where I'm at, and hindsight's 2020 and all that. But yeah, we'll see where the future takes me. This has been a great year. Definitely check out the videos that I've linked above, linked in the description, because there's a lot more that goes into these numbers here, and there's a lot more to my business than just these numbers here. If you're interested in digging in really deep. But anyways, on to the next slide. How accurate was I? So if anyone, maybe you paused it, maybe you went and you watched that video, 20, 25 minutes maybe. I threw some actual numbers out there, and I'm going to do that in next week's video too. I want to do that more, where I go back on videos where I actually make like this date, this dollar amount, whatever it may be. I want to do that more and just keep kind of a scorecard on how I'm doing. So I guessed really wide. To me, 6 to 10 billion. As I stated it, I'm like, I know somebody's gonna give me some flack. They're gonna say, "Oh, 6 to 10 billion." Like, obviously, I put a singular number of 8 billion, but I said I would not be like, I expect the print run to be between 6 and 10, but to put one singular number to please people, I'm gonna say 8 right in the middle. And I said I would be kind of surprised if there was less than 6 billion printed, and I would have been kind of surprised if there was greater than 10 billion printed. 9.7 billion. We got that in July, June or July. We get those numbers because they do it on a fiscal basis from March of 22 to March of 23. So we'll get our next number between March of 23 and March of 24 in June or July. And I'll tell you what my prediction is for next year's print run in next week's video. So, I mean, I wasn't spot on, but it was in my range. I think that was a pretty good guess there. Reprints. I pulled up a few TCG player pricing of different boxes. Evolving Skies at the time that I made that video was $300. Brilliant Stars was $180. Silver Tempest was $125. And I put this note here. I have one distributor, and this is something that I'll talk about more next week as well. $400 per Evolving Skies box, limit 2 boxes per week, is what I had access to over the past several months. I've had access to that. Did they have a pallet? Did they have a truckload? I think a truckload's like 20 pallets maybe. How many did they have of that? Hundreds, thousands? No idea how many they had. But it seems like the well ran dry on those limit 2 per week that I could have gotten at 400 a piece. Is that going to be bullish on the price? I don't really know what that's going to do. I just wanted to put that point in there. One thing I said to timestamp my video from last year at 10:57, I said I will never return to Evolving Skies. Those were my exact words. If you took that quote alone and then skip the context that I gave immediately after I made that quote, just that's one reason I don't like React content. Right here I'm reacting to myself, so I'm going to give you all the context, but React content will often take little bits and pieces and not give you all the context. Immediately after that, I said the only way that I could see me changing that, and I'll elaborate further on another reason that I didn't anticipate really, but I said if I'm able to buy it at some fraction of market and then be able to flip it just at that same cost to make margin, I would probably be open to doing that. So one thing that I did when the box was at like 440, 430, 440, not that it was room for a ton of margin, but I ended up buying for a few weeks in a row. The way I don't need to get into the mechanics of how I did it. I got one sealed case for my distributor at $400 a box, and then further than that, I didn't really expect to get more than one case. I actually had a couple collections that I bought out. I forget if I have 2 or 3 cases. I have at least 2. I have 2 or 3 cases. Maybe it's 2 and then just a few loose boxes. I think I have 2 cases of Evolving Skies sealed and then a few loose boxes. I actually have to do an inventory start of the year. I do modified cash basis. I do slight accrual, some inventory tracking. But anyways, another, say you were a cash basis filer, another potential consideration that I wasn't really considering then. But there are strategically times where towards the end of a year, if on paper you are netting a lot of money, if you have that separate bank account that fully only your business goes in and out of it, and you have that business credit card, only your business goes in and out of it. If you start the year, and this is very, very like shortcutted, this is very trying to think of the proper way to phrase it. This is something you would have to verify with somebody. This is something you'd have to dig in a little bit deeper. This is summarizing a bit too briefly, but in very simple terms, cash basis filing. If you start your year with your bank account at 50K and you end your year with your bank account at 50K, you netted 0 that year. If you start with 50K and you end with 250K, you netted 200K that year. So spending a lot of money at the end of the year, and I know there's TikTok videos, and I know there's people are just really bad at understanding taxes, and there are videos I've seen where people get kind of trolled on, trashed on, and they're mostly right. Like if you spend a lot of money at the end of the year, consult with your accountant, blah blah blah. If you spend a lot of money at the end of the year, you will net less money in cash basis filing, because it's literally just looking at cash in, cash out. So your mileage may vary, consult with somebody, but that is a consideration as well. There are times where certain people try to get a lot of stuff off the books at the end of the year, and there are certain businesses, certain times where people try to get a lot of stuff on the books. They try to get a lot of cash out of the accounts off the books so that they can net close to that 0 or close to that optimal amount. being a cash filer and even accrual filing with certain selling more stale inventory that maybe hasn't risen a lot. And if you own real estate, if you own, I mean, even stocks, there are times where you can strategically realize long-term gains in years where you have lower incomes. And yeah, this needs to be its own video, and it will be someday. But anyways, it's more complex than just I will never return to Evolving Skies for the reason that I said. I was able to pick some up at 80-85%, some kind of a reasonable margin where I could just buy it and flip it. I haven't bought it. I haven't flipped it immediately. I do intend to list one of the cases soon, potentially sell out of one of them to kind of lower my cost basis on the other. But anyways, that was a lot of context, a lot of explaining away that one taken out of context quote that I quoted of myself. That's me demonstrating how React content can work and how I would have had to react to the React content if someone else pulled that quote out on me. Yeah, I had said I wouldn't go back, but I did. 20 cases of every set. That is one thing that I stated. 10 to 20 cases of every set. Years ago, I used to do 1 to 2 cases of every set. I am doing, in most ways, 10 times what I was doing then. 10 times 1 to 2 is 10 to 20, right? So the numbers work to where the number that I think sounds good is 10 to 20 cases of every set. I'm not there on almost any set. All the Scarlet and Violet sets, sadly, I have 10 cases plus of them. I think except Paldea Evolved. But all those sets I have 10 plus cases of. No Sword and Shield set. I think the closest, Lost Origin, Silver Tempest, pointing back to what I said here. Brilliant Stars, I have really close to 10 cases. I might actually have 10 cases of that. I have a couple collections inbound. Whether they were collections, inventories, investments, I don't really know. But I bought out some more multi-5-figure collections. Linked above that one video where I talked about spending $100,000 in 1 week. That was weeks ago. Just a week or two ago, I spent a fair bit more getting some mix of different sealed inventories collections. And yeah, maybe I'll just, after I do my audit, after I do my inventory of everything, maybe I'll just show what I have for inventory of all the different sets and kind of discuss why and my thinking on those. Again, next week, I will tell you what I think on future reprints. Next week, I will tell you what I think for 2024 on print run, but I'm not going to give you that today. And so I guessed most of Sword and Shield. I think I said all of Sword and Shield. All of that which was within the reprint window of like 2 years. Generally speaking, historically speaking, 2 years is kind of what we get for reprints. I'll touch on it more next week, but there's actually like a letter on every card these days. I think the current letter, well, this Haunter in front of me has letter E on it. We'll talk about that next week, what that means, and how that relates to what sets I think might get reprinted in 2024. But of the 3 that I guessed, the 3 that I specifically called out saying they'll probably get reprinted, Evolving Skies didn't. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I think we did get ETBs reprinted of it. I think we did get a lot of different collection boxes that had Evolving Skies packs in it, but the booster box has separated from what the loose packs go for. And that has often been the case recently with a lot of these boxes. The booster boxes will separate. They seem to be favoring reprinting ETBs more than booster boxes lately. Will that be a trend moving ahead? Who knows? But anyways, Brilliant Stars is significantly under 180 right now. I want to say it's closer to 135, 140. I want to say I have a weekly limit of 2 or 3 boxes of that at 130-ish from my distributor. Silver Tempest, I think I can buy that without limit. Well, within reason, without limit. I could probably buy a pallet of it. I could probably buy 600 boxes at like 110 a piece. Lost Origin did get more reprints. I don't think like Astral did. I don't think Chilling Reign did. Battle Styles is probably did. A lot of these sets, one thing that's been going on, and I'll talk about it a little bit here. I'll probably rehash it again next week. These distributors are selling stuff at market price. They're looking at TCG Player. They're knocking $10 off, and then they're selling it for that. And whether that stuff was restocked from Pokemon, reprinted from Pokemon, they found it in the back on the shelf, I don't really know. But that has been a trend where if or when reprints, restocks come, they're often sold at market price or dang near market price through the distributors. And I think that's going to be kind of a trend moving ahead. We'll see, though. Another prediction, another thing that I talked about, I put Zard UPC up on screen. At the time, it was $100. I made the statement, and I made a video before on the Charizard UPC that people were too negative on it, in my opinion. And people were too negative, and it got too low. It got too cheap. You could literally just open it, 16 packs, the promos, all this and that. I talk about it in a video in depth. But as far as I understand, I don't think it was reprinted ever again in that past year since I made the video. And the price is slowly ticking up now. I mean, I have a couple hundred that I have to take back at the end of this month once Troll and Toad kicks all my stuff out officially. I think I have 200 sealed, maybe 220 sealed at Troll and Toad Evo. Some amount I'll break down, some amount I'll sit on a bit longer term, some amount I might start listing cases and maybe slowly selling off cases here and there. Just to, that's one consideration. I meant to get to that when I was talking about 20 cases of every set. I'm coming to find what my actual limitations, what my restrictions will be on storage space. I do have access to some off-site facilities, I guess I'll say. I could probably, if I wanted to, store 20 pallets worth of stuff externally. Some stuff is already stored externally, nowhere near the extent like it was or is still for a few more weeks with Troll and Toad Evo. I am looking into other options. I'm looking into other things. At some point, some pallets will probably get wrapped up of longer term inventory and kind of sent to some of those locations. But 20 cases of every set is probably really pushing it. I'm probably going to be closer to the 10 range, probably 10 to 12 if I had to revise. Saying 10 to 20 was a really wide range, tightening it down, and it's not hard and fast rule. Like it's not going to be, people always look for rules of thumb. People always look for like shortcuts. That's going to be an upcoming video in a few weeks. Just talking about shortcuts and rules of thumb and how they might be damaging. But Evolving Skies, last year, if you watch my recap video, I talk about how I have 0. I even though I'm targeting 10 to 12 of certain sets, I might end up with 0 of several sets because the price achieves within 6 months, a year, 18 months, what I expect it to or intend it to over 5 years, 3 to 5 years. So if or when that happens, and if I think the reprint chances are high, I'll be gladly disposing of my inventory, selling off my inventory before it gets to that 10 to 12 cases. And 10 to 12 cases, I'm not taking those to the grave. Those are to be strategically sold when it feels right. And when it feels right, it's fully by feel. It's not 6 months, 6 years, 16. Like, it's not a percentage. It's not any fixed rule. There's no just rule that I blindly follow. I think some people, they sell half their thing at double the price. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I do another thing. Like, it's all by feel. It's all by feeling. It's all by cash flow. The whole business is an engine that works together. And if I don't need the capital elsewhere, I'm more likely to hold it. If I have other opportunities and I need the cash flow, and Ultramodern Sealed, at least up to now and currently, very highly liquid at very high percentages of market price. And I've made videos how market price in Pokemon isn't really a thing. The closest you can get to having an item having a market price in Pokemon is something like the newest set booster box. But it'll vary. It'll vary between eBay and Troll and Toad and TCG Player. And there's some platform arbitrage that goes on. I think I've made some videos on that before. But yeah, Charizard UPC, I don't think I did re-listen through on 2x. I hate listening to my own videos, but I did listen to the whole video at 2x. I don't think I put like a specific number on it. Just, again, I'll do it next week, but I'll try to put a specific number on the Charizard UPC for year end of 2024. I just said it would probably tick up, and it did. So I think I got that one right, even though I was pretty vague. This one I smashed out of the park. I would say if you go back and you listen to what I said about grading, I said I believe grading will be 15 or less by March 2023. And I said I think we'll see $12 or $13. And 10 is likely a year or two away. I did shout out Z&G Emporium again. I don't know if it's in the mail or not. Maybe I'll just have him consign it for me. But I have some winnings in the mail soon. We did a little friendly wager. He thought $10. $10 grading was going to be open to the public by the end of 2023. That did not happen. I was quite confident in that. Once we got, by March of 2023, we had 15. And then sometime over the summer, I think we got our first 14 or 13 maybe. And then just lately with the holiday, I think we had 12, 13. Sometimes it's just for sports. Sometimes it's just for Pokemon. We still feel a long way away from $10, in my opinion. I'll elaborate on it more next week, the prediction video. And then I talked about Moonbreon and other like race to the bottom plays, the hot potato plays, whatever you want to call them, the falling knife plays, Pikachu, Gray Felt Hat. What I said was those will continue to be a thing. For whatever reason, it's kind of an enigma. But that first to market, it goes for $1,000 or $500, or I think they've dampened. And I think what I said in the video was that they'd kind of cool off and dampen a little bit. One thing that we had in 2023 was we had, for a decent portion of it, $40, $35 grading at PSA, turning around in like 2 weeks. That allowed for a much more reasonable cost option than in prior years, or earlier in 2023. You had to pay $75 or maybe $150 to get it back within that time frame. And having a $40 tier, talking about as if that's cheap, crazy. I mean, historically speaking, grading is still crazy high. But anyways, that was my prediction. I think it kind of panned out to where the market's still highly overvalued. I showed Moonbrion as the counter example, the exception that proves the rule, where very frequently the highest any single graded card sells is right in that first week, and then it's just down from there, race to the bottom. Then it kind of levels out, and then maybe years later it ticks up. Moonbrion is one that bucked that trend, and it had a second wave, a second hit, second hype wave that went above. And I mean, that card, I just sold one the other day for $900, I believe. That card today is still selling at or near above its first hype wave, first ones out of the gate were selling for. So yeah, I think I had that prediction pretty right. Next week I'll try to be even more specific. I'll try to be like, this date, this dollar amount, like I did with the Pikachu gray felt hat. I made a prediction a couple months ago in a video. I'll try to just give you January 1st, 2024, Evolving Skies will be this, Lost Origin will be this, these sets will be reprinted, these ones won't be. I'll try to be more specific because I was fairly vague in that video. But yeah, highlights of 2023. This is kind of wrapping up. This week I'm going to wrap up what happened in 2023, and then next week is going to be what are my business plans along with predictions for 2024. So Troll and Toad Evo brought to a close. I mean, September. I've not been able to send in any new inventory to Troll and Toad Evo since September. I believe in February or March, I got the notice that I could no longer continue long term with Troll and Toad Evo. So I did have several months of grace as far as sending new stuff in to get all my processes, get all my storage locations and fulfillment options underway, and that went well. I mean, as we saw a couple slides ago, I was very pleasantly surprised with how well I was able to get that stuff on eBay. And I'm not fully optimized. I'm still sorting out what size boxes I want to carry, what's the optimal, and I'll make a video. Once I have that all ironed out, I'll make a video, optimal packing sizes, optimal box sizes for all different, and I do most stuff by the case. I don't really do individual ETBs, individual booster boxes. I try to stick with cases, but I will, I do a little bit of Japanese too. So Japanese cases, Pokemon, English Pokemon cases, and I do a little bit of One Piece. I do a little bit of Metazu. So I will try to do one all-encompassing video of like the cheat sheet to all the packaging sizes you need, depending on what you're selling and what those options are. So yeah, pivoting from Troll and Toad Evo, I've done a little bit of research. I've done a little bit of testing. ComC, check out my cards. Great website. I'm not sponsored. Don't have an affiliate link. Same thing for DC Sports 87. ComC is more raw singles, and DC Sports 87 is more, they do raw, and then they also do graded auction consignments. ComC is more of a buy it now. Both linked to eBay. But I've talked about them both periodically in different live streams and stuff. I'll try to do standalone videos for both at some point throughout the year, just so people can get an idea what exactly they are and how they work and if they can suit their businesses. I will say that they are helping me in the absence of Troll and Toad Evo. They're not the same though. They are a lot more expensive and they don't do as much. So double whammy. Cost more, do less. It is what it is though. Troll and Toad Evo is too good to be true. And mystery and sealed lots on eBay. Additionally, I made that video, money allergies, whatever I called it. Very, very successful. Very, very happy with how those are going so far. eBay Vault 5% consignment started. I did have a little bit of early access. Early summer, I want to say it was, maybe June timeframe. I started my original consignments on eBay in 2022. So it's been over a year and a half, close to a year and a half, I guess, for general consignments. But Vault consignment started last year. I'm at a point where I will not accept a non-Vault consignment exclusively. The only thing I've been doing is if somebody has a large portion of stuff that's good for the Vault, 250 plus single graded cards, I will take their extra stuff that needs to go on my eBay directly. Fees still 20%, but $25 minimum. So it's not great for a lot of stuff, but it's still there if people need it. Some people are utilizing it. It's more like, hey, I have a ton of stuff. Can you take all my cheap stuff too? But you're going to get my expensive stuff. So that's the way that I've been gone with that. Going to be some changes I'll talk about next week. eBay Vault, buyer's premium is inbound. From what I've heard, I think it's at least a few months away. We don't have a firm time frame, but I'll talk about it once I hear it. 3% buyer's premium though, still knocking it out of the park, in my opinion. Kind of destroying the competition when it comes to buyer's premium. A lot of kinks to be worked out. I'll talk about eBay Vault more. 2023, 2024, school year. Not the whole year of 2023, but starting in September. I've been working nights through June of 2024. I'll be working nights. Been tough. It's been tough. I've not been sleeping as much as I should be. I will catch up someday. I will catch up when summer comes. But I've been getting through it. So I was really happy seeing what I was able to do in 2023 with the final quarter of that, a little more than the final quarter of that, the final 4 months, final third of 2023 being Night Shift Dan. And I'm very happy with my year, very happy with how my predictions came out. None of the predictions had major implications to my business. None of the predictions did I really like act on in any massive way. As I mentioned, the Evolving Skies, I thought it was going to get reprinted, so I sold down to zero. It's still, I mean, it's not like it was a major thing. In hindsight, had I kept my whole allocation, had I sold them all at $400 a box, it would have been better than having sold them at 150, 200, 250, 300. But overall, a few grand, several $1,000s, maybe, like, yeah, would have been great, but you don't look back in a negative way. You keep on keeping on. Whatever I did with those proceeds, I don't remember exactly. Money's fungible, so like it's not like that money went into one finite thing. It just went everywhere. So overall, still very happy having sold those too soon. And but yeah, to close it out, I think I have one more slide. So yeah, 2024 predictions and business plan. Tune in next week, as I've been saying throughout the whole video. To wrap it up, a personal goal. I started the video with rocket emojis and record numbers, record eBay numbers. Not all record numbers are great. So you're looking there, no free feet pics included. I cropped my bathroom scale down to just a number. I am at a record number for weight. I have always said I've been bad since after college. I think I graduated college at like 205. I was a string bean then. I'm 6'4", 252.6 apparently as of right now, and it's too much. I think if you look at the BMI chart, I'm getting like going from overweight to obese. I want to get back down to low overweight or high normal weight. I think high normal weight is at like 220. So I'm putting this out there, kind of like an accountability thing. I don't know if anyone else. I know it's a very popular thing that people often fail on, and I'm gonna do my best to not. It's a very popular thing to set weight loss goals for the new year as New Year's resolutions. I'm not doing anything drastic. I'm not doing, I think a lot of the fad diets very unhealthy. I'm not cutting chicken wings. I'm not cutting beer. I'm not cutting soda altogether, universally. I'm going to try to do a little bit less of everything. Maybe the nights that I have IPAs, maybe have 8 of them instead of 12 of them across a 12-hour span from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Maybe biggest thing with me is the quantity, the amount. Like, I just eat a lot. When we have, I love pizza and wings. I love steak. I love chicken wings and beers. The quantity I have of everything, big dude, big belly, fill it to the top. I need to get better on that. I made a video. I think I've talked about it in various videos, but a lot of finances and like fitness, health, they're very similar. Like, it's all easy concepts. It's just hard to execute for a lot of people. The finance, it's just like ingrained in my DNA. It comes easily, and I just do the right things naturally. The health is not the greatest. It's all about caloric deficit, just like your personal finance is all about dollar excess, less outputs more inputs than outputs, right? So it's a simple thing. I just need to have a caloric deficit. Smart goals, I don't want to be vague about it because for the past few years, I want to say I've been between 240 and 255 for the past 5 years. It's been a long time. Maybe it got a little bit worse during the pandemic, but I never really went above 255. But anyways, I've been just saying vaguely, I need to lose weight this year. That's not a smart goal. That's not specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-based. I'm going to say I want to start off stronger because I think, obviously, like the first weight is going to be the easier to lose. And then as I lose more, it's going to be harder to lose like the same 10 pounds, whatever. So April 1st, 1 quarter, I'm giving myself 3 months. I want to be 240. I want to lose like, and honestly, this 252, being such a big dude, there's a decent variance. There's days where I'm 255, 256. This was just like a lighter, maybe a little bit dehydrated when I woke up in the morning day. I forget when exactly I weighed myself. But anyways, I want to be 240 at like my high end, my high end of variance by April 1st, and I want to be 225 by the end of the year. So I'm front loading some of it. Maybe I'm doing like almost half of it within the first 3 months because I think that's when it's easier to lose. And even though it's the winter months, I want to get off to a good start, and I want to be 225 by the end of the year. So not all record numbers are good ones. I'm gonna work on getting away from the record number on the bathroom scale. So there's my video. Little bit of a personal tinge there at the end. Little bit of accountability, hopefully. If anyone out there has a goal like that, feel free to DM me. Feel free to leave it in the comments. Maybe a couple people we can DM back and forth. Keep us on track. Keep us on with our goals. Maybe I'll post it to Instagram too, just so that I get some maybe words of encouragement and get some. Back in college, I used to play racquetball. I used to go practice all the time. Used to have buddies, go to the gym with, whatever, go play. And I had sports and stuff. And pre-kids, I used to play intramural, like adult kickball. And I used to play volleyball with my cousins and stuff. And everyone's having kids now. The pandemic, it's like, it's harder to be active. So I need to do it through eating less mostly. But I also do need to get more active too. So yeah, that's my 2023 recap. Next week will be my 2024 teaser, plans for the business, predictions for the Pokemon market, trading card market. I will talk about One Piece, Lorcana, MetaZoo, predictions for a little bit, all of it. It'll be 90% Pokemon, 10% of that stuff, kind of like my business is. So yeah, I really appreciate you watching. If you made it to the end of 40 plus minutes, let me know somehow in the comments below. You guys are the real ones. If you saw the whole SMART goal that I set for my weight. Yeah, we'll see though. We'll see though how it goes. Hopefully I can set record numbers on eBay and stay away from record numbers on the bathroom scale. So yeah, I appreciate you all watching. I will catch you all later.